hadn't planned on coming to my parents' house that night. I was exhausted after a full shift at the diner, and my 7-year-old son Jonah was half asleep in the back seat as I drove through the cold drizzle. The heater in our apartment had died the night before, and the landlord still wasn't picking up. The forecast said the temperature would drop below freezing overnight. I kept telling myself I'd only stay until morning, just until I figured out what to do. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, the porch lights were on, but the house looked exactly the way it always did, warm for everyone except us. Jonah blinked awake and rubbed his eyes. "Mom, are we staying here?" "Just for the night," I whispered, brushing his hair back. "It'll be warm. That's all that matters." Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. We walked up the steps slowly, Jonah clutching my sleeve like he always did when he felt nervous. I knocked, and after a long minute the door finally cracked open. My mom peered out, already irritated. "What?" she snapped, like we were salespeople interrupting dinner. "Hey, Mom," I said softly. "The heat's out in our place. It's freezing, and I was wondering if Jonah could sleep on the couch tonight, just until morning." Her expression twisted into something ugly. "The couch?" she repeated, voice rising. "You think you can just show up and claim whatever you want?" I swallowed. "I'm not asking for much. He's cold. I just want him to sleep somewhere warm." She glanced down at Jonah like he was a bug that wandered into the wrong house. "He's too big to be coddled. Kids survive. We did." "Mom, he's shivering," I said, pulling him closer. "Please." My dad appeared behind her, wiping barbecue sauce from his hands with a paper towel. "What's the problem now?" he grumbled. "She wants the couch," my mom answered, gesturing at me like I was begging for a diamond. My dad scoffed. "That spot belongs to real family, not freeloaders." Jonah stiffened at the word. My stomach twisted. "It's just for tonight," I said, trying to stay calm. "He's tired. He won't bother anyone." My mom stepped fully into the doorway now, blocking us like a bouncer. Her eyes were sharp, cold, and calculating. "Your sister is coming over in the morning. She might want the couch. She's pregnant. She needs comfort." Then she snapped, "Not your problem if you can't provide for your kid." "I'm trying," I said quietly, but my voice felt so small, swallowed by the cold night. "Well, try harder," my dad barked. "You chose your life. Don't bring your consequences here." Jonah's head dropped. He whispered, "Mom, let's go." And maybe I should have. Maybe that should have been the moment I turned around and walked right back to my cold apartment and slept under every blanket I owned. But I was tired, bone deep tired, and he was 7. A 7-year-old shouldn't freeze. So I stepped forward just a little and said, "Please, just let him sleep on the couch. I'll sleep on the floor if I have to." My mom's face snapped into something vicious. In one sharp motion, her hand flew across my cheek, so fast, so sudden, I barely saw it coming. The slap cracked through the night like a gunshot. Jonah gasped and grabbed my waist with both hands. Then, as if the slap wasn't enough, she shoved me with both palms. Hard. I stumbled backward off the step, landing on the cold concrete, knees scraping against the rough ground. Jonah toppled with me, hitting the ground beside me with a small cry. His hands scraped. His elbow thudded on the pavement. My mom looked down at us like she was staring at trash on the sidewalk. "I said that spot belongs to real family," she hissed. "You don't qualify." My dad stepped up beside her, folding his arms. "Pathetic," he muttered, "always begging, always needing, always expecting us to clean up after your decisions." I pushed myself up slowly, pain shooting through my knee. Jonah was crying quietly now, trying to hide his tears against my sweater. "Mom," I said breathlessly, "we just needed warmth, that's all." "You don't get to ask for anything here," she said, lifting her chin. "Your sister? She's done everything right. She listens. She gives us something to be proud of." "Unlike you," my dad added. My mom's voice grew sharper with every word. "Go home. Freeze. Learn a lesson. Maybe next time you'll think before ruining your life with that kid." Jonah flinched like she'd struck him too. I stood there, heart pounding, humiliation burning so hot I could barely breathe. They were content to watch us struggle. They wanted us to. They enjoyed it. They wanted power, control, and the satisfaction of reminding me where I stood. And Jonah, sweet, quiet Jonah, clung to my arm with shaking fingers, whispering, "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble." That broke something inside me. "You didn't," I said firmly, cupping his face. "None of this is your fault. Do you hear me?" He nodded, but doubt clouded his little eyes. My parents watched this like it was entertainment, like a show they'd seen before and wanted to see again. "Close the door," my dad told her. "We're done." My mom smirked. "We were done with her a long time ago." And the door slammed in our faces. Hard, loud, final. The porch light flicked off. We were left in the freezing dark, standing in the driveway like strangers. Jonah wiped his cheek with his sleeve and whispered, "Why don't they like us, Mom?" I swallowed the lump in my throat, my hand still throbbing from catching my fall. My knee was bleeding, my face stung from her slap, my heart felt hollow. "I don't know, baby," I said, pulling him into my chest, "but I promise you, one day you will never feel second to anyone again." As I helped him into the car, I didn't know how yet. I didn't know when. But something inside me had snapped. They drew the line when they pushed us onto the ground. They drew another when they called my child a mistake. And another when they slammed the door. They had torn the last thread holding us together. And they didn't even know what was coming. Not yet. The drive back to our apartment that night felt longer than it should have been. The heater still didn't work, so Jonah curled up in the back seat under his jacket, shivering even though I kept glancing back to check on him. Every time I caught his eyes in the mirror, he looked away fast, like he didn't want me to see him cry again. When we finally pulled up to our building, frost had already begun forming on the edges of the windows. I carried him up the stairs because he was half asleep, and his elbow still hurt from falling on the driveway. My knee was throbbing too, but I didn't say a word. Inside, our apartment felt like a walk-in freezer. You could see your breath if you exhaled hard enough. I wrapped Jonah in every blanket we owned, 3 thin ones and an old throw I found at a thrift store years ago. He curled into a small ball on the mattress, hugging his stuffed raccoon to his chest. "Mom," he whispered, his voice cracked. "Yeah, baby?" "Did Grandma really mean it? That we're not real family?" My chest tightened so hard it hurt. I smoothed his hair back. "She doesn't get to decide that. You and I, we're real. We're a team." "But she said—" "I don't care what she said." I pressed my forehead to his. "You are my family, my whole heart." He nodded, but he didn't smile. His nose was pink from the cold. His breath shivered. I made hot chocolate with the little bit of cocoa powder left, forcing the stove to stay lit long enough to get warm air moving. We sat on the mattress together, drinking from chipped mugs, pretending things were normal. But they weren't. At 2 in the morning, I woke up to Jonah coughing, short, sharp coughs that made him sit up and press a hand to his chest. "Mom," he whispered, it hurts." I felt his forehead, too warm. His skin was pale. The cold room had gotten into him. Guilt hit me like a truck. If my parents had just let him sleep for one night. Just one. He wouldn't be like this. I pulled on my shoes and wrapped him in his jacket. We drove to the emergency clinic down the street. When the nurse, a tired woman with kind eyes, saw Jonah, she frowned immediately. "It's too cold for a child this age," she said while checking his breathing. "Where do you live?" "A few blocks away. Our heat's out." "Does he have somewhere else to stay?" I hesitated. "Not safely." She looked at me longer than she needed to. "We'll help him. Don't worry." Jonah ended up needing a nebulizer treatment. I held the mask to his face while he looked at me with those heavy, trusting eyes, as if I had all the answers. While we were waiting for the doctor to come back, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification, a message from my sister. "Mom said you showed up whining again. You really can't stand on your own?" Pathetic. I stared at the screen, knuckles turning white. She was probably still sitting on the couch, the real family couch, talking trash about us while Jonah struggled to breathe. I didn't answer. The doctor came in and told me Jonah had a mild respiratory infection made worse by cold exposure. "He needs a warm environment tonight," she said. "No exceptions. Can you make that happen?" My stomach twisted. "I'll try." Try? I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her how my parents shoved us out into the cold, how they slapped me for wanting warmth for my child, how they had a fireplace blazing in their house while my boy lay shaking in a freezing room. But I just nodded. On the ride home, Jonah slept curled up in the seat, breathing more evenly. The guilt felt endless. As I carried him inside, my phone buzzed again, this time from my mom. "You embarrassed yourself tonight, begging for the couch like a stray. Grow up. Raise your kid yourself." I stood in the middle of the freezing apartment, holding Jonah in my arms, staring at those words until they blurred. They hurt my son. They shoved us onto concrete. They didn't care if he froze. They didn't care if he got sick. They didn't care about anything except worshiping my sister. I laid Jonah gently on the bed, tucked him in, and sat beside him until he fell fully asleep. Then I got up, closed the bedroom door, turned off my phone, and sat at the kitchen table in the dark. The anger didn't feel explosive. It felt quiet, focused, controlled. My parents thought I would keep crawling back. They thought I would keep begging. They thought I would keep accepting whatever crumbs they threw. But tonight showed me the truth. If I didn't protect Jonah from them, no one else would. For the first time in years, I made a plan not out of desperation, but out of certainty. I was done asking for space, done begging for warmth, done hoping they'd act like parents. They made it very clear where they believed we belonged, on the ground, beneath their feet. And soon, very soon, they were going to learn what it felt like to be beneath mine, because they hadn't even begun to understand what cutting someone off truly meant. And when their time came, it wouldn't be quiet. It wouldn't be soft. It would be a consequence they never saw coming. The opportunity came faster than I expected. 2 weeks later, my sister called me in a panic. Not to apologize, not to check on Jonah, but because my parents were being evicted. Their perfect little world was cracking. They had ignored months of notices, spent everything on my sister's pregnancy photo shoots, vacations, and parties. Now, the landlord wanted someone from the family to co-sign an emergency payment plan. Someone with stable income. Someone like me. My mom got on the phone, voice trembling for the first time in my life. "We need your signature, just to stop the eviction. It's nothing for you. Be useful for once." Useful. They wanted the daughter they shoved onto the pavement to save them. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I didn't explain. I simply said, no. Silence. Then my dad barked, "Do you want us on the street?" "You wanted my son freezing on the floor," I reminded him. "Now you can feel what you taught us." My mom's voice cracked. "Please, just help us. Please." "No," I said again. "Jonah comes first, always." And I hung up. The next week, I drove past their house on the way to work. All their things were on the lawn. Furniture, boxes, bags. My sister was shouting into her phone. My dad was arguing with the movers. My mom was crying on the curb. Jonah looked out the window and asked softly, "Is Grandma okay?" "She'll be fine," I said. "She has a couch somewhere." He didn't understand the meaning, but he nodded and went back to drawing. We drove on. For the first time in my life, the weight on my chest finally lifted. They shoved us to the floor. I left them on the curb, and I didn't look back. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.